ahead.
Alright, so I'm Andre Oliveira. If you've been in this class and awake, you'll know that I've talked a lot about rugby. So my presentation is on rugby. Ta-da. Not too many people know much about rugby. What they do know is that it looks like a bunch of idiots running into each other, hitting each other as hard as they can, and running after a ball that looks like an egg. Kind of like a football, kind of like a soccer, a weird baby of it. Not at all how it works. So some definitions you guys are gonna have to know. Rugby football actually refers to rugby, and football actually refers to soccer, not American football, like the rest of the world. Okay, just a bit of background. I started playing in 10th grade at my high school in Rochelle, and after playing for a year, I was invited to go play with the men's club that one of my coaches plays with, and I've been playing with them ever since. Um, Okay, so rugby started off in way back history, back with the ancient Romans. The first picture um, is at a festival in Rome that they tried to bring back some of the festival games, and it was called Harpastum. And what happened was there was two teams of however many people that you wanted that would just try and get this small ball and cross a line, and it was a rectangular pitch, kind of like rugby, and you would just do whatever the heck you wanted to get the ball. So that's what most people believe rugby is. Although this is one of his great grandfathers, that's not at all how rugby is today. After that, it went on to medieval Ireland, where they had CAD, to the Welsh, onto Eastern Europe, and the French had a specific version called Soul. Most of these composed of two teams. At one point, it became very religious, where two parishes would compete against each other, and it would go from 50 to about 200 people, if not more, that would just try to beat each other up into pulps to get the ball. Moving on, in the 1800s, there was mob football. Again, football means soccer, not American football. I'm gonna be saying that a couple of times until you guys catch on. Mob football was just there was a ball, usually a pig's bladder or some ball of leather, and you kick it and try to get it into a goal, or across a line or into some gate, and it would just be whoever shows up plays. And it's not like soccer today where there's knee pads and you can't kick people in certain places or do certain things. It was whatever the heck you wanted goes. So you see the relationship between the past games and the more recent games. Moving on towards the mid 1800s, the British schools started saying, all right, well, let's start incorporating this into our schools, and bring some order to it. So slowly, all of these games start getting a bit more organized and slowly progress. In 1823, a young English pupil in the rugby school, the school was actually called rugby, um, they were playing a game of football, and he picked up the ball, started running with it, and they say that he was the father of rugby. Now, rugby is a very cultural sport, which is why we need this story. Although there's plenty of evidence that there were other teams and people beforehand playing, we say that he's the father. There's actually a trophy, and that's the statue of him in the middle. His name is William Webb Ellis, and there's a cup called the Webb Ellis Cup that happens every year, and it's in commemoration of him. In 1845, the prestigious British schools that were playing before joined up, and they said, all right, well, let's start playing against each other. And what happened was they each wrote down their own type of rules. And these rules weren't, okay, everyone's going to follow by these. It's going to be like, okay, I have these rules, you have those rules, you have those rules. And it all depended kind of on how the school was structured, what kind of fields you had, what kind of playing space you had. Some schools were on concrete, so there wasn't much tackling or much running. Other schools were on huge fields where there was a lot of running, a lot more tackling. So it starts getting very diverse. When these schools come together and meet, it's a tragedy case. But then in 1848, there was a meeting in Cambridge where all the schools actually came together and said, all right, let's get this down together and follow the same rules. Although that didn't really work out, they still kind of kept their own rules a bit. Um, yeah. In 1863, some of the schools came together, well, all the schools came together and said, all right, these are going to be the rules. We're going to call ourselves the Football Association, and this is where soccer officially starts. Now, some of the people were like, all right, I don't dig this whole kicking with my feet, not being able to pick people up, not being able to pick up the ball. with you guys. So we're just gonna keep doing our thing, you guys do yours. What happened was, a couple years later in 1871, the schools that opposed those rules got together and formed the Rugby Football Union. Rugby football being football because it came from soccer, but it originated in Rugby, which was the city, thus Rugby Football. From then on, they became known as the RFU, and then a couple years after that, there was a whole, should we pay these guys, should we not pay these guys? Because a lot of people started playing, from schoolboys up until elite businessmen. And they started saying, all right, well, if I'm going to start missing work to come and do this, I should be getting paid. And then part of people said, no, you shouldn't be getting paid. This is just hobby. What are you doing? So this came to be a big split between the two oppositions. And rugby is formed from a lot of different splits, all the way back from the ancient Romans. So from 1823, that was the first split from soccer to picking it up, although that's what we say it was, it wasn't really. 1863, a bunch of schools came together and made the Football Association, which then went on to be FIFA. Everyone knows FIFA. 1871, schools come together and make the RFU, and 1895 comes the whole to pay them or not to pay them. And from this led to Rugby Union, which is the widely known rugby, which I'm going to keep on talking about, and then Rugby League, which was where they were getting paid. That was the main and only difference at that time. Now, both unions get paid, and Rugby League has a bit different rules. So from the split came more splits. So rugby's just huge, and that's off of the branch. The first international team that rugby had, since it was just mainly focused in London, in England actually, and then people started going out and colonizing. They brought the game with them. The first international was between England and Scotland, and it was in Edinburgh on March 27th, 1871. Scotland won, which is kind of funny because England started the game. I always thought that was funny. And then Scotland, Ireland, Wales come together, and they decided to make, all right, well, instead of having our own rugby union, you having your own rugby union, you having your own rugby union, like the schools beforehand, let's all get together and make an international rugby football board. A couple years later, 1997, this came to be the IRB, International Rugby Board, instead of International Rugby Football Board, because rugby now just means rugby, not rugby football, which is the same thing. Now, a lot of people don't know, rugby was in the Olympics 4 times, and we won gold 2 of those times. Absolutely nobody knows this, but the U.S. won 2 golds in 1920 and 1924. Yeah. And it's a bit different from regular rugby, where there's 15 people, there's 7 people, same size field, same rules, heck of a lot more running. It's exhausting. Granted that the matches aren't 40 minutes halves, it's 15-minute halves. It was the worst 15 minutes of your life. The best at the end, but the worst while you're doing it. Going back to the international games, rugby eventually started having a World Cup. First World Cup was in 1987, and it was hosted between 2 nations, Australia and New Zealand, because it wasn't so big in any of the countries, so that they could have it all across the country, so they joined up together and they hosted it. New Zealand All Blacks actually came up winning, and currently the All Blacks are the favorites for the World Cup, which is happening right now. They are the dominating force in rugby. They actually wear all black to commemorate the death of their foes, and yeah, think of that. And you'll see a bit of them after, I think, the next 2 slides. Women also have their own union, and the IRB, which was very man-focused, and since it had always been a man's sport, didn't encourage it. So the first Women's World Cup wasn't sanctioned by the IRB, which is kind of crazy, but it wasn't. US actually came to win that one too, against England, which again is hilarious. Right, and just some clips. What you're going to see right now is the All Blacks performing their ritual that they do before every game. Better clip. They do that in the middle of the field.
Trying to kill people.
But yeah, they do that in the middle of the field. It's to actually, it's not. They don't say it's just the idea of opposing team. It's kind of just a celebration. It goes with the whole culture of rugby. Every person that has ever played rugby for more than a day knows about the All Blacks and about the haka, which is what that's called. It comes from the Maori tribe in New Zealand, and it's been passed down through the tribes for almost ever since they've been around. And there's actually a translation to it, which is this is the hairy man that came and brought the light. I take a step up, another step up, ready, fight, about that. And it comes from a chieftain from way, way long ago. And there's another clip, if I can show that.
You can, you've gone over, but go ahead.
Yeah, I saw the end. And this is live play and the promotion for the World Cup, which is
It's not.
finishing this Saturday. Isn't that crazy? Sorry. Really?
Well done by Williams. Chimoyama casting out of a few tables. Gets his pass away and here is it. Transform themselves and the game and the thrill. They take the lead.
Finished your bond.
And Sonny Bill Williams does it again as the try is scored by Middlesbrough and he scores it. That upload from Sonny Bill Williams.
That was cool.
So watching, you can kind of see the progression from the crazy mobs bashing into each other to bringing in the whole soccer kicking. Very team oriented, very into family stuff. And I'm over my time by so much.
It's, the World Cup started the 9th of September, and it's not finished yet?
No, they're just this Saturday or the next. It's going to be New Zealand against France, which
It's even longer than the football World Cup.